All right, hey, I'm just checking in because it's the end of the month and I needed to do my end of month wrap up. It's actually currently June 30th. Uh, it's almost midnight right now. I just haven't been able to sleep very well at night. I've been falling asleep at like 2, 3 a.m. and then I wake up at 5 a.m. for work, so I've had a very terrible sleep schedule lately. But that doesn't matter for this video. I thought I'd just throw that out there. Um, I wanted to talk about the 5 books that I read this month. Really, it should only be 4. One of them I had read mostly in May, and then I kind of just read the end of it in the beginning of June. It took like the first week of June for me, and that is Swan Song by Robert McCammon. Now, for all of these books, as always, I have videos of full reviews on them, so I'm not going to do a full review of any of these here, but I will do a little brief summary and my quick thoughts on them. So Swan Song is about a post-apocalyptic kind of America where all of the nukes went out, and you follow 3 different stories essentially. One of Swan and Josh. Swan is a young girl who is very in touch with nature to the point where she can like feel the blades of grass dying when they're being cut outside. She is probably the main character in the entire book, hence Swan Song. She's accompanied by Josh, who is a former professional wrestler, which I personally love. You see Randy Orton probably up there. Here's some Cody Rhodes right here. I always gotta show off a little action figure. I have a few action figures sitting around. I notice here. Fix my Yeet glasses as well for Jey Uso. Anyways, I have a sweet spot for professional wrestling, so I enjoyed his character quite a bit just because of that. Another group you follow is led by Sister, who is a former homeless woman who was living in New York when the nukes went off and she was in a sewer system. She comes across this glass piece of essentially glass magic. When she holds it, and when anybody holds it, they feel this like crazy relief, and they can go into these memories. And one guy goes in, he's drinking with his wife that he hasn't seen in a long time, who most likely died during the nuclear blast. And when he comes out of it, he's actually a little bit drunk, and so it has a very strange power. The last group of people is led by Colonel Macklin. I believe that was his name. It's been obviously a month since I've read this. I think it was Colonel Macklin. And his little lackey that they were in a nuclear shelter, fallout shelter essentially, for when bombs go off. And when they finally get out of that little nuclear shelter, they essentially start to form an army to take over again. So you're bouncing between those 3 stories mostly, and it was okay overall. I didn't have any huge gripes with it. It is a big book for me to just say it was okay, but it felt very similar to The Stand by Stephen King to me, and I think that was just, The Stand was the same story but done better, which was written before Swan Song actually. So if I were to want to read a story like this again, I would just end up reading The Stand. I don't think I have any interest in revisiting this book anytime soon, but this was the first one that I read this month. Moving on from there, we get some Dolores Claiborne by Stephen King. I actually enjoyed this book quite a bit. This was probably my second favorite book that I read this month. I read 3 Stephen King books this month, by the way, which if it weren't for this channel, I probably would only be reading Stephen King. But I know that I gotta diversify what I'm doing a little bit. So Dolores Claiborne is about a woman who finds out that her husband molested her daughter, and she decides to kill him. And the entire book, there's no chapters in it, which I thought was very interesting. There's no breaks, nothing. The entire book is her sitting down with some police investigators and pretty much telling her story. And another big point in the book is her working for this rich old woman who kind of mistreats her, but she's also going crazy with like Alzheimer's and stuff. And so she's helping this old lady out as her servant, essentially. And so you're learning a little bit about that dynamic and that relationship while also learning about the build up to her eventually wanting to try to kill her husband, which the plan is to do it during the solar eclipse. And the reason that that is important is because it actually directly ties into Gerald's Game, which I mentioned in my review of both of these books because I reviewed them both together. I didn't originally know while picking up either of these books that they tied in together. The first little section of Dolores Claiborne actually mentions Gerald's Game, saying that these books are happening. There's an event in these books that happened at the same time, which I thought was very cool. Also, look at this picture of Stephen King there. What a man. I love Stephen King. I actually got a comment on a video today that said I need to get out of his constant reader cult, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon. I thought that was a funny comment. I think he was a little more serious about it, but I did think that was a funny comment because I'm a big Stephen King fan. I have none of his books are behind me. I actually have a bookshelf over here dedicated to him and his books that I have. Gerald's Game, the concept is very cool. I really loved the concept of this book, and I was very excited to read it, but it really let me down. The concept is that a woman and her husband go to their getaway cabin, essentially, and they decide to have some more crazy sex, and so he handcuffs her to the bedpost, and while they're going to do it, he's starting to get a little too into it, and it kind of scares her off, puts her off, and she realizes that even if she wanted to say no, she thinks that he would rape her. She ends up kicking him and kicks him in like the balls and the stomach or something. I can't exactly remember, but he ends up having a heart attack and dying on the floor in front of her, and now she's just handcuffed to this bedpost. I thought that concept was really cool. What it ended up becoming was a look back on her past and the trauma that a lot of different men have brought her over the years. While not taking accountability for any of her own actions, she just kind of pushes off all of her issues with the world on the fact that men mistreated her. At least that's how it is framed, in my opinion, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. There's no character growth in this like a normal Stephen King book. There is a few haunting moments. I wouldn't say even haunting. There's a few uncomfortable moments, like a dog who comes in, who's a stray dog that I feel so bad for. It's a dog that was like a family dog, and a guy didn't want to pay the taxes on bringing him back to their home and just decided to let him go into the woods. And like within a month, he lost all this weight, and it's so sad. I have such a soft spot for animals that it's hard for me to read stuff like that. And it actually made me put down the book a couple times for a couple days because I just didn't want to go back and read about it. It hurts my heart, honestly. The dog ends up wandering into their cabin and is slowly kind of coming back and eating her husband randomly. There's some moments like that. There's some trauma that is visited in her childhood. The trauma actually takes place at the same time that this happens during a solar eclipse. But overall, I just really didn't like the main character, Jessie. She rubbed me the wrong way the entire time. I was almost rooting against her, hoping she was just gonna die. And even after the entire story is over, there's still a good like section of the book of kind of just the repercussions afterwards. And it kind of just turned into something that I wasn't looking for, I guess. I wasn't a huge fan of this book. Not the worst book I read this month, though. That honor goes to Ghosts of Honolulu by Mark Harmon. Now, I picked this up not really knowing what I was getting into. I have been fairly interested in World War II as of lately. I think it's just an interesting topic. And so I was like, you know what, Pearl Harbor is probably one of the more interesting things right now to me. That and maybe the Battle of Midway. And I decided to pick this up because I was like, Ghosts of Honolulu, cool, it's a Pearl Harbor story. Barely. It's more about a Japanese man named Douglas Wada who is hired onto the military eventually and becomes an interpreter but he also becomes somebody that's kind of keeping his eye out to make sure that there's no Japanese population in Hawaii that are going to go against America. This was on the lead up to Pearl Harbor, and the distrust of Japanese citizens in America was growing increasingly high. So he was supposed to kind of just report back and see if there was anybody that was fishy. There's another character that is a Japanese spy that I say character, by the way, because this is narrative based and it feels like you're reading a fictional story. And as I said in my review, it does feel like a lot of this was dramatized and very bloated with information that either didn't pertain to the story or maybe felt a little fabricated. I don't know. There is a lot of footnotes at the bottom of these pages citing his sources, so I could be talking out of my ass here. But what I was saying is there is another person that is a actual Japanese spy who was over in Hawaii taking pictures of the ships and things and reporting them back to the Japanese government to try to help plan and plot for Pearl Harbor. So there's a cool little dynamic there. They never really interact with each other. There's no intersection or intercrossing of these stories. It just kind of, the book fell really flat for me. I lost interest very quickly in it once I realized what it really was. And Mark Harmon is traditionally an actor on like NCIS. I mentioned that in my review as well. It's not somebody that you would think as a maybe trusted source on this kind of thing. Again, he may have done the most research that anybody's ever done on a book, but it didn't come across that way to me. My favorite book of the month, which is a controversial book for sure, even to the point where the author pulled it and it is no longer in print, is Rage by Stephen King, written under Richard Bachman. Now I'm not going to hold this up like that this whole time. I'm just going to hold up the Bachman books here, which is the way that I read it, as I mentioned in my review. Thanks again, Travis from Travis Bookshelf, the now, I wouldn't say defunct, but now gone YouTube channel. He removed all of his videos at some point, but still decided to kindly send me his copy of the Bachman books. Now, I actually just posted a review on this. Well, when you're seeing this, it'll be yesterday. I enjoyed it a lot. The more I've kind of sat on it too throughout the day, I really do think I enjoyed this book quite a bit. I did get a comment that somebody felt that it was, I think actually the same guy who said I needed to get out of the Stephen King cult. He said that he felt like it was incel fan fiction, essentially. And I do see where he's coming from with that. So Rage is about a high school senior who he has a lot of trauma and issues in his life that come out throughout the course of the story. But he gets expelled from his school because he hits his teacher over the head with a pipe wrench, and he decides to light his locker on fire and take a pistol, and he goes and shoots an algebra teacher, shoots another teacher that was coming in to help evacuate the students for this fire, locks these 25-ish students in a classroom with him, and pretty much has a big therapy session. What was weird about this book was that it did feel like the students sided with him very quickly, and I think that that's where the comment about the incel stuff kind of came in, is it almost felt like a justification of his actions throughout the course of the book. I don't think that that was the intention, but it does come across that way, is that because he had all this trauma in his life, that's an accepted reason for killing these teachers and doing what he did. You can take it that way. I didn't personally. I took it more of a warning of what could be with people with crazy backgrounds and maybe people who are not mentally all there. But overall, I thought the book was very entertaining. It was an interesting dive into an interesting character, I think is the best way to put it. Not a character that anybody should ever look up to or emulate, but a character that is interesting to evaluate, I guess, from a distance. The book was taken down, as I stated in my review as well, and kind of put out a print because he was worried about associating with school shootings that were going on. There was a couple school shootings that happened in the 80s that one of them, I believe, was obsessed with his book, with Rage, loved the book, and the other one, they found a copy of Rage in their locker. At least that's what I remember from looking it up. But I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that kind of censorship of it. It's weird when the author is the one to do it. I don't know how to feel about it, but I just don't like general censorship of media. I think it does more harm than good in 99% of cases. But what are you gonna do? Everybody has different opinions on it. I don't know. I don't know the right answer. I don't think there is a right answer necessarily. But overall, those are the 5 books that I read in the month of June. Overall, it was an okay month. Couple books that I liked, Rage and Dolores Claiborne. The rest of them were alright. Didn't care for Ghost of Honolulu very much, but still wasn't a waste of time. I don't feel like any book that I read is ever a waste of time, because every book I read is helping me grow as a reader. So I don't ever view a book, even if I dislike it strongly, as a waste of time. It's the same reason I try not to DNF any books, just because I want to get through it. If it's something I started, I want to try to finish it. But anyways, I appreciate y'all for sticking around this long, and thanks.